When survival becomes your superpower, the radical softness revolution. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Venus Nelson, a woman whose journey from devastating loss to purposeful transformation is reshaping how we understand resilience, economic independence, and the power of discernment. Venus is not just a restaurant owner, she is a living testament to what happens when we refuse to let trauma define us and instead allow it to refine us. Her story, her wisdom, and her willingness to speak truth into the silence are making the world a better place. One conversation, one meal, one boundary at a time. And what she shared with me during our interview is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about strength survival and what it means to enter your soft girl era. So let me ask you something. How many of you have been taught that survival is your identity, that being strong means never breaking, that softness is weakness, that grief, abuse, and betrayal are things you hide in the back of your closet like old clothes you're ashamed to wear? Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Black women represent only 14% of the US population, but account for 31% of intimate partner homicides. We are 3.5 times more likely to be killed by a partner than white women. Every single minute, 24 people experience physical, emotional, or psychological harm from an intimate partner. By the end of today, 3 women will be murdered by someone who claimed to love them. These are not just statistics, these are our mothers, our sisters, our friends, our colleagues. And maybe if we're being honest, these numbers represent us. Venus Nelson knows this reality intimately. During our interview, she shared something so powerful, it stopped me in my tracks. She said her mother's death created a restaurant, her experience with domestic violence created a poised warrior, and infidelity, betrayal at its rawest, created a gift of discernment. Let that sit with you for a moment. Most of us have been taught to view trauma as something that breaks us, something that disqualifies us, something we need to get over, move past, forget about. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if the very experiences that tried to destroy us are actually the foundation for building something extraordinary? Venus didn't just survive, she transformed. And in doing so, she's showing us a roadmap for how Black women can move from survival mode into something I call radical softness, a place where healing, boundaries, and purpose coexist without apology. Let me share with you 3 lessons from Venus Nelson's journey and from the stories of other Black women who have walked this path. Lessons that will fundamentally shift how you see your own pain, your own power, and your own possibilities. Lesson number 1: economic independence is non negotiable for safety and healing. Nearly every survivor of domestic violence experiences some form of financial coercion. Partners withhold money, destroy credit, sabotage jobs, seize vital documents. For Black women specifically, economic abuse becomes the invisible cage that prevents leaving. You can't leave when you can't pay rent. You can't leave when your credit is destroyed. You can't leave when your partner controls every dollar. Venus's restaurant represents more than a business. It symbolized the economic independence that transforms survival into agency. It's her declaration that she will never again be trapped by someone else's control over her finances, her future, or her freedom. That's, let me tell you about a woman I learned about. She spent 5 years in a relationship marked by financial control and sabotage. Her partner monitored her bank accounts, prevented her from working independently, destroyed her credit by opening accounts in her name. Despite her business acumen and her dream of launching a catering company, she remained trapped in economic dependence. She grew up watching her mother work multiple jobs to support the family after leaving an abusive relationship. This instilled in her a deep desire for independence, yet she found herself in a similar situation: controlled, isolated, and economically dependent. The turning point came when she attended a community event where another Black woman entrepreneur shared her survival story. Recognizing herself in that narrative, she reached out for help. After leaving the relationship with support from a local domestic violence organization that provided financial literacy training and microfinance assistance, she launched her catering business. She rebuilt her credit within 18 months. Her first year revenue was $45,000. By year 3, she hit 150,000. But here's what matters most. She created a survivors circle within her business where employees receive mental health support and financial coaching. She partnered with domestic violence organizations to provide job training and placement. She became a visible example in her community that abuse does not define your future. Today, her business employs 5 other women survivors of domestic violence, providing them with income and a healing community. Her business model has been replicated by 3 other organizations in her state, creating a template for how entrepreneurship can be a pathway to healing for abuse survivors. She has spoken at business conferences about the intersection of domestic violence and economic empowerment, shifting how the business community understands barriers faced by Black women entrepreneurs. This is what economic empowerment looks like. It's not just about making money, it's about reclaiming your right to choose, your right to leave, your right to build something that serves you and your community. When you build financial autonomy, whether through entrepreneurship, skill development, or community support, you are engaging in a direct act of resistance against abuse. You are creating a pathway to genuine freedom. And for those of us in our soft girl era, this is essential because softness without resources is vulnerability. But softness with economic power, that's revolutionary. Lesson number 2: grief and trauma can be alchemized into purpose and service. Venus told me that her mother's death created a restaurant. Think about that. The loss of the woman who gave her life became the seed for something that now feeds her community, provides employment, creates gathering space, and honors her mother's memory in the most tangible way possible. The loss of a mother, combined with the trauma of domestic violence and betrayal, could have defined Venus as a victim. Instead, she transformed these experiences into tangible gifts: a restaurant that serves her community, the emotional strength of a poised warrior, the spiritual clarity of discernment. This teaches us something profound. Healing is not about forgetting or moving past pain. It's about extracting wisdom from it and using that wisdom to build something that serves others. I want to share another story with you. A Black woman professional in corporate America experienced intimate partner violence for 7 years while maintaining a high level position in her organization. She endured physical abuse, emotional manipulation, and infidelity while grieving the loss of her mother, who had also experienced domestic violence. Her mother's unspoken suffering shaped her childhood. When her mother died, the grief was compounded by unresolved trauma from her mother's own abusive relationship. Years later, when she found herself in a similar dynamic, she initially blamed herself, believing she should have known better. The turning point came when she attended a memorial event for Black women killed by intimate partners and realized that her survival was not guaranteed and that her voice could matter. After a crisis intervention, she left the relationship and began working with a nonprofit focused on Black women's healing and economic justice. She eventually transitioned from corporate work to leading a nonprofit program that provides trauma informed business coaching to Black women survivors. Today, She has launched a nonprofit program that has provided free business coaching to over 200 Black women survivors. She secured $500,000 in grant funding to expand the program to three additional cities. She published research on the intersection of domestic violence and entrepreneurship among Black women. She trained 50 corporate HR professionals on recognizing and supporting employees experiencing domestic violence. She established a scholarship fund in her mother's name for Black women pursuing entrepreneurship after trauma. Her work has influenced corporate policy changes in her city, with major employers now offering specialized support for employees experiencing domestic violence. She has become a national speaker on trauma informed business practices and the economic empowerment of Black women survivors. Her program model has been adopted by organizations in 5 states. This is what it looks like when we alchemize pain into purpose, when we refuse to let our trauma be the end of our story and instead make it the beginning of our service. Black women experience disproportionately high rates of domestic violence, sexual assault, and homicide. Nearly 1 in 3 Black women have experienced sexual violence. We need to see models of transformation, not just survival. We need to know that our pain can become our platform, our wounds can become our wisdom, our grief can become our gift. Lesson number 3: community accountability and belief are essential to breaking the silence. Domestic violence remains one of the most underreported crimes in America, with survivors, especially women of color, staying silent out of fear, discrimination, or mistrust of systems that have failed to protect them. 53.5% of people experiencing domestic violence continue to work, with almost 83% reporting that it negatively impacts their work performance. This reveals the hidden cost of abuse in professional and entrepreneurial spaces. Venus Nelson's willingness to speak openly about domestic abuse, infidelity, and maternal loss breaks this silence and creates permission for others to do the same. When Black professionals, business leaders, and entrepreneurs share their stories of survival and transformation, they signal to their communities that these experiences are not shameful. They are human, they are survivable, and they can become sources of strength. I want you to hear about one more woman. A Black woman entrepreneur and community organizer experienced infidelity within her marriage while simultaneously managing her mother's terminal illness. Her mother had always been intuitive, often sensing things before they happened. Before her mother died, they had deep conversations about trust, intuition, and the cost of ignoring red flags. When the infidelity was revealed months after her mother's death, she felt doubly betrayed by her husband and by her own blindness. But she also remembered her mother's voice. Trust what you know, even when you want to believe otherwise. This became the seed of her discernment work. Rather than viewing the betrayal as a personal failure, she used this painful clarity to develop what she calls discernment practices, tools for recognizing patterns of deception and building authentic relationships in both personal and professional contexts. She now teaches these practices through workshops for Black women in business and leadership. She transformed her pain into a teachable framework called the discernment practice. She has delivered workshops to over 15 organizations, reaching more than 400 Black women professionals. 85% of workshop participants reported feeling more confident in recognizing unhealthy patterns in relationships and business partnerships. She authored a guide titled Discernment for Black Women: Reading the Signs, Trusting Yourself, which has sold over 2,000 copies. She developed a certification program for facilitators to teach the discernment practice. She partnered with 3 business schools to integrate discernment training into their entrepreneurship curricula. She created a free resource library accessed by 10,000 Black women annually. She established a peer mentorship network of 200 women who practice and teach discernment. Her work has influenced how Black women's business networks approach partnership vetting and relationship building. Organizations now recognize discernment as a professional and personal development skill. Her framework has been adapted by HR departments, nonprofit boards, and entrepreneurial communities as a tool for building healthier, more authentic professional ecosystems. This is what happens when we break the silence, when we name our pain, when we share our wisdom. We create ripples that become waves that become movements. So here's what I need you to understand that Venus Nelson's journey and the journeys of these other remarkable Black women are not exceptional. They are examples of what becomes possible when we stop treating trauma as a secret and start treating it as a teacher. If more Black professionals, business leaders, and entrepreneurs openly shared their experiences with domestic violence, infidelity, and grief, and reframed these as sources of wisdom rather than shame, we would see workplace culture change. We would see reduced isolation and increased help seeking. We would see economic empowerment as prevention. We would see intergenerational healing. We would see professional and entrepreneurial networks strengthened by authenticity. Your soft girl era is not about pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about extracting the wisdom from it and building something meaningful. It's about releasing the cape, redefining strength, embracing softness, healing in real time, protecting peace as, as a practice, and turning your survival into something sacred. So here's my challenge to you. I want you to stop right and think about one person in your life who may be experiencing domestic violence, infidelity, or grief in silence. I want you to reach out to them today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today with a simple message. I see you. I believe you. You are not alone and your survival matters. But I also want you to do something harder. I want you to examine your own story. Write down 3 experiences that hurt you deeply. Then write down 3 gifts or strengths that emerged from surviving them. Look at what you've written and ask yourself this question: how can I use these gifts to serve my community? Because that's where real power lives, not in pretending the pain didn't happen, not in hiding behind the cape of strength, but in extracting the wisdom from your wounds and building something meaningful that helps someone else survive what tried to destroy you. Venus Nelson's restaurant is not just a business, it's an act of resistance. Her willingness to speak about domestic violence is not just bravery, it's an invitation for other women to break their silence. Her discernment is not just personal wisdom, it's a gift she's offering to every woman who has ever been betrayed and wondered if she could trust herself again. Every time Venus shows up as her full, healed, discerning self, she gives other Black women permission to do the same. Every time you show up in your softness, in your boundaries, in your truth, you are giving someone else permission to heal. Your softness is not weakness. Your boundaries are not selfish. Your healing is not optional. And your story, the one you've been hiding, might be the exact story someone else needs to hear to save their own life. So I'm asking you today, what will you do with your survival? What will you build from your pain? Who will you become now that you've made it through? Because the world doesn't need you to keep surviving. The world needs you to start thriving. The world needs your restaurant, your business, your voice, your wisdom, your discernment, your soft girl era. This is not just about you. This is about every Black woman who comes after you, every daughter who's watching, every sister who's struggling, every friend who's suffering in silence. You have survived for a reason. Now it's time to transform. Welcome to your soft girl era. Let's build something beautiful from everything that tried to break us.